everybody, and welcome back to our channel. We are Brigade of Beans, a diagnosed DID system. My name is Vizard, and we have a very special video for you all today. We are going to be discussing with one of our friends the things that we hate about being a system. In this video, there are 7 different prompts that both myself and our friend are going to be talking about. But before we get into those, let's get a little bit of an introduction from the both of us. We are Brigade of Beans. We've been diagnosed with dissociative identity disorder and complex post-traumatic stress disorder since late 2020. However, before our diagnosis, we had already begun to suspect that we were a system, and we started seeking professional care because we knew that something was going wrong and we were having a lot of very distressing symptoms and experiences that we wanted help with. We have been making content about dissociative identity disorder since even before our diagnosis, and sometimes we question whether we should have been posting DID content back before we were diagnosed, but we can't change the past. For the last few years, we've been working on this YouTube channel. We also have an Instagram and a TikTok where we post relatively frequently, and we focus a lot on content that's based on our lived experiences, sharing what our life is really like with DID, and educating about DID. We don't share a lot about the things that we dislike about having DID. We do talk about it here and there, but the majority of our content is very neutral or even positively skewed. And this is because it's very, very vulnerable to talk about the hard things about DID online. There are things that are private, and even in this video we won't get into because they are private to ourselves and we don't want to spread them to a wide audience. And another part of it is that we want to show hope for other systems, that it doesn't have to be all doom and gloom all the time. There can be really positive things in your life when you are a system. But the reality is, this is a complex trauma disorder. It's really distressing, and there are some things that genuinely make our life miserable. And that's what this video is dedicated to. It's not a happy video. It's not a bright, sparkly video. It's discussing some of the real, raw, gritty, horrific things that we have to experience because we're a system.
Hi, my name is Lennox. I use either he, him, or they, them pronouns, and I'm 21 years old. I have dissociative identity disorder, and I've been diagnosed and in integrative treatment for 3 years. I got diagnosed at the end of 2022 when I was 18. For both consistency in my day-to-day life and for this video, I don't tell people which part of me I am unless we're close. I'm Lennox to the people around me, and very few people understand the parts that make up the whole of me as a person. I'm going to be recording my bit of this video at any time I have the convenience to, so if you hear any differences in how I speak, you know the drill. As for referring to myself as a singular person, I do this very intentionally. In my DID recovery and transition into adulthood properly, it has been a lot healthier to refer to myself as one individual, and I appreciate Beans for allowing me to be able to speak about this in the way that's best for me. I like video games, but especially The Legend of Zelda, Dungeons & Dragons, and literature. I first suspected I had DID at the end of 2020, and by early 2021, I'd sought out the online DID community for a sense of belonging and for help. While I'm glad I was able to make some fantastic friends online, I regret being in that space immensely, and I really only count my years of being diagnosed as how long I've known I have DID, because my 2 years spent suspecting were filled with a lot of misinformation that inhibited my recovery. I'm a very cynical person when it comes to the condition I live with, and I'm grateful I've been given a space here to vocalize how difficult DID is to live with. I'm grateful I don't need to water down my experiences here into something fun and desirable, because that's not what DID is. Beans let me add this after. So hi, I have a TikTok page as well. It is called Teaching with DID. I post like day in my life videos. I post what I've started as like my own version of an alter introduction. And if you have any questions or just want to see a topic discussed, let me know on there. I'd be super happy to. It's something new that I've started that I'm really excited about. So thanks again, Beans, for letting me include that here.
Now that you know who the both of us are, let's get into the meat of this video. Prompt number 1. What does a general week in your life look like? How does having DID make this hard? Our weeks are quite structured. We have specific things that we do on specific days, and we try to stick to them as much as possible. But we also have a lot of free time within the rest of the day. We're also autistic, so routines are very important for us, and they help make sure that we get everything done without too much dysregulation. Starting with Monday. Normally Mondays are pretty free for us, although once a month we'll have an evening catch up with friends on a Monday. Every second Tuesday we have therapy with our psychologist, and we get picked up from there by our support worker, and we have a 2-hour shift with them. Wednesdays are our university day. We are on campus all day. We have one lecture and one tutorial with a 2-hour break in between. And then oftentimes we'll also go to our social club in the evening. Thursdays are also a free day for us now. Previously, we've had a cleaner come once every 2 weeks on a Thursday. However, that's now changed to a different day that I can't remember. That will be monthly. We also used to see our OT on a Thursday. However, that date is also up in the air and being moved around. Fridays, we have a support shift in the afternoon, which is a 3-hour shift, and we do whatever we need doing with a support worker. And then Friday evenings, we'll also likely go to our uni social club. But recently we've been going to our uni social clubs less and less because of the demand of doing an actual course. We haven't had the capacity for socializing anywhere near as much as we'd like to. And then for the weekends, we will oftentimes do social events with our disability support company, and these are group events where multiple people go, and that looks a variety of different ways. It might not sound like we have a very busy life based on that, but I now need you to understand that there are multiple people living that life. And so whilst we do not have a lot of obligations, there are many different people who are trying to get their say in what we're doing with our time. We also spend most nights having flashbacks and having nightmares that are directly linked to our CPTSD. And then we'll wake up in the morning either having flashbacks or being exhausted. And so we start off every single day already exhausted. DID also causes really severe dissociation and switching, the latter of which is my brain is trying to make happen because talking about distressing things distresses us, and so our brain switches to try and make us forget that we're distressed, which means that we struggle to finish projects, we struggle to engage in things we want to engage in, we really struggle with self-care because we're autistic and we have a lot of sensory sensitivities when it comes to self-care, and then that makes us distressed, which makes us switch, which makes us not know whether we've completed self-care or not, or have alters friends who just refuse to do it even if they know we need to do it, and it just becomes a complete shambles. We have flashbacks, maybe not full flashbacks, but emotional flashbacks. We have alters inside who try to sabotage the things that we want to do, and it's just a constant battle all the time, every single day, that if we tried to add more things to what we do in a week, we would become completely dysfunctional. It's really hard living in a system where you don't all agree with what you want to do with your life. It's just really messy and confusing all the time.
During the semester, I attend university. I go to class 4 days a week, and I work 4 days a week as well. Every other Monday, I go out to dinner with a friend of mine. I'll play Dungeons & Dragons twice a week. My class days can be anywhere from spending 4 hours on campus all the way to 9 hours, so my weekdays are generally pretty intense. I tutor for work, so I spend time either helping students one-on-one with English or helping big groups study and collaborate together. I think DID makes this difficult because of my amnesia. The routine of the entire thing is really the only reason I'm as successful with it as I am. If my days were not organized as well as they are, I wouldn't be passing my classes. I've had bad days with amnesia and switching where I've missed work shifts and appointments with students. I've dropped the ball with some pretty big class assignments because of that amnesia. I think it's also pretty difficult navigating big and loud environments where triggers can happen at random. The routine locks me into place, but I can't count how many times I've lost a few hours of my day because a noise or a smell reminded me of some trauma. Maintaining friendships can be difficult with DID, but I try to make it a priority to be openly communicative about the struggles I have and what I can do to meet friends where they're at emotionally, even with the challenges of having a dissociative disorder. Breaks from school are really difficult for me. The lack of routine makes keeping track of days difficult, and I find relationships so much harder to maintain in periods where I'm not constantly busy and having to organize things. It's an odd sort of middle ground that keeps me comfortable. I thrive in structure, and the challenge of just how much of it there can be helps me stay on track.
Prompt 2. What are some everyday/common experiences you have with DID that you hate? Losing so much time. We're constantly realizing how much time we lose, and it's not just the big blackout gaps where you have no idea what happened. It's the losing small moments from an hour and realizing that looking back you don't actually remember most of that hour, but you were there for such little bits and pieces that you didn't even notice that so much was missing. We were having a conversation the other day where someone said that a fortnight, so 2 weeks, is a long time. And 2 weeks isn't a long time at all for us. We might only have 1, 2, maybe 3 moments within a fortnight where we as individual alters are grounded enough in the body to feel like we're experiencing time. We'll have other bits of memories throughout that time period as well, where we're blended, where we're soupy, where we've had co-consciousness or shared memories, but it's not our time. It's not moments where we feel like ourselves. Astral might get a bit more time than that, but even then, he probably only is grounded half of a week at maximum. And it's just, there's so much time that goes missing every single day. Other daily experiences with DID is not feeling like a singular person, and not just like sharing a body with other people, but not knowing who you are. Right now, I'm not sure who I am. There's like 3 or 4 people who could be me. Maybe they're all blended into me, but I don't know who I am. And that's an everyday experience for us, of at least one point throughout a day having no idea who you are, not really knowing what your interests are, what your name is, what your identity is, just being a nothingness in a pool of way too many.
There are a lot of them that I dislike, so I'll talk about a few, I guess. DPDR is one of my hardest challenges. I don't feel real anywhere from 60 to 70% of my day. I feel like I'm operating in a video game, and that the things I do have no consequences in the real world around me because I don't feel like I exist enough for there to be a lasting impact. This is as tough for me as it is because it doesn't just impact me and my schoolwork. It interferes in my relationships with my friends and my family. It makes it difficult to have goals because nothing feels real and tangible enough to try to do. It makes me an inconsistent person. I don't know how other people perceive me because I can barely perceive myself and the people around me. DID is incredibly maladaptive, and the symptoms I experience are debilitating. I could go on for hours about this, so I'll focus on one more, and that's the PTSD. Obviously, DID is a trauma-based dissociative disorder, and my biggest symptom besides the dissociation is the flashbacks that come with it. Most of my dreams are flashbacks of some kind. Most of my interactions have me second-guessing and trying to decide if trusting the people around me will lead me to be abused again, will lead to me being hurt again. Random sounds, textures, tastes, sights, and smells will send me into flashbacks, and sometimes I don't even know what I'm remembering. It ties in pretty closely with the DPDR because I can't tell if memories of my abuse are real or not. Forming new relationships and trying to become a functioning adult with constant reminders of trauma and hurt is really difficult. I really hate having flashbacks and experiencing symptoms of PTSD as often as I do.
Problem number 3. What common, everyday, normal experiences does having DID make hard or impossible? Routine. We really thrive on routine to be able to regulate as an autistic individual, and having DID throws it out the window. We don't have a sleep routine. We are trying really hard to come up with a routine around meals. We've been setting more reminders and stuff because our dietitian was like, you need to be eating regularly and not just whenever. We struggle to study. We struggle to get our uni work done when we're not in class, because class is a positive friend trigger for the alters who want to do our assignments, who want to be doing our courses, who want to be doing our degree. And then we get home and are not being positively front triggered anymore, and the people fronting just don't want to do it. And we know that we have to, but it's really hard to motivate yourself to do something that, 1, you didn't actually do the coursework for, and 2, you've got no fucking interest in it. It's just not something that I want to be doing. It's also really fucking hard to engage in our interests. Like, when we switch, we'll tend, depending on who's switching, we'll just stop doing what we were doing. So like, if we're trying to watch a movie, it can take us 3 or 4 times sitting down trying to watch it to actually watch it, because we keep switching and people do something else instead. I really want to listen to the Magnus Archives podcast. I've been listening to it since 2022, 2023. Yesterday I listened to episode 15. Because I don't front regularly enough to be able to engage in my interests and have the free time to do so and not just be doing my job within the system. And it makes it really hard to just do things that everyone takes for granted, your hobbies, the things that are fun, when you're not there to get to do them.
Eating, for sure. As odd as that sounds, I have a lot of trouble recognizing when I need to eat. I don't always get physical cues that tell me when I'm hungry, and with how much I dissociate, I often skip multiple meals a day, just lost in whatever else I need to get done. Making food a few days in advance and putting it in smaller containers for school has been my working solution, but I still struggle a lot, weekends especially. That isn't even really counting any trauma-related issues I have with food, which comes up more than I'd like to admit. The combination of those two things makes eating something mechanical that I have to work out for myself, and in speaking to friends, I've realized most people don't view eating like that.
Prompt number 4. What is the worst part about having DID? I'm the first to answer this question, but I wouldn't be surprised if more alters in our system jump in because we have a lot of different opinions about what's the worst part of having DID. My name is Alter1, and I'm a depersonalization and derealization holder in our system, and I spend most of the time not sure who I am. I don't even realize that I'm fronting, I don't realize that I'm real, I don't realize that what's happening is actually happening, and not just some convoluted daydream that I'm having in the back of my own head when somebody else is fronting and in control of the body. And it's really, really hard not knowing that you're a person, and not feeling real, and not feeling like anything around you is real, and just floating through life without any real sense of identity or self, and that's the worst part of DID for myself. We have a lot of different answers for this. Someone else gave an answer in our system interview video, I don't even remember what it was. This morning, Astral woke up and was like, hands down the worst part about DID is having nightmares because we slept like absolute shit last night. Kids in our system think it's that we're too big for playground equipment or they're not seen as themselves. Morgana's worst part about having DID is that she's stuck in the body of a collectively transmasculine system who started to transition when she didn't want to transition. Meanwhile, for other alters, it's being stuck in a body that doesn't look like you in any way, shape, or form, and is just some alien vessel that you have to help pilot and take care of because you're stuck here. For myself, it's probably having to deal with shit people who just don't understand, either because they're undereducated, or they're willfully ignorant, or they're just assholes who either think that they're trying to be helpful and give positive advice, and it's like, bruh, I've tried the fucking yoga, I've tried the fucking medication, I've eaten the right foods and gone to therapy. This shit isn't just a quick fix, it's something that I have to probably live with for the rest of our life because of how our DID specifically functions. And sure, functional multiplicity is a thing, final fusion is a thing, but I genuinely don't know if we'll ever get to either of those places. We say that our goal is symptom management because the shit going on in our brain is really fucking complex, and we don't have access to the frequency of mental health care that we need to even really make a dent on it. We're constantly chasing our tails, we're constantly on the edge of getting somewhere and then not being able to because our sessions are so spaced out because our insurance thinks that they know what's best for us when they fucking don't. Hi, it's Astral, and there's another thing that I wanted to add about the thing that I dislike the most about DID, and that is finding names, finding videos, finding pieces of artwork from alters that I don't know. It's not having an understanding of who else is in my brain, who I share a life with. It's finding a video clip left for a YouTube video filmed by somebody once and never hearing from them again. It's finding artwork in styles that I don't recognize, detailing really horrific things, and not having any communication with that alter, never hearing from them again, never knowing if it was a creative expression or if it was a literal thing that our body experienced. It's not knowing if the person I can feel standing right behind me in my brain is someone that I know or someone that I don't know, and not being able to communicate with them to get an understanding of who they are or what they might need, or if they're just there because they want to be. It's not knowing my full self. It's not knowing all the dissociative parts of me. It's feeling like I'll never get to know that, and feeling like I'll never get to be a whole person because I don't know the different parts of our system. And that makes me feel really alone and isolated and scared and overwhelmed. It's just really overwhelming to realize that I don't know our system very well at all.
I think the disconnect from myself and my identity is the worst part of having it. Obviously, I could talk about the flashbacks, the PTSD, the things that make living with DID actively distressing, but not knowing myself, feeling disconnected from the people I love, and feeling unable to grasp the fact that I'm currently working towards a lot of big goals feels impossible to manage. It's a running joke with some of my friends that my memory is so bad that I forget my name every morning, and while I say that with a lot of levity, I think only a few people close to me understand what that really means for me. With friends I want to get closer to and spend more time with, I do open up and let them know how difficult connection is for me, both connecting to myself and to those around me. I haven't felt like a real and whole person ever, and the last time I believed I did, I was 9 or 10 years old.
Prompt number 5, what stigmas exist around DID that make your life harder? Gonna be honest, we have not had people think that we're dangerous. What we have had is people think that we're not real because they think it's some kind of trend. And people like to cite it was the TikTok surge of 2020 that made everyone think that DID was a social media trend, and that's not true. Because you know what else made people fucking think that DID was a trend? The Three Faces of Eve and Sybil back in the 1900s. People thought then when those books came out that the surge of DID cases was social contagion, even though it later was proven that it wasn't. Although it was called multiple personality disorder, but it's the same fucking thing. And this repetitive cycle of every time DID gets big and people finally fucking see something that explains their experiences and they start to explore that, and maybe they're wrong. Sure, some people think they have it and they don't. That's a human fucking experience. But it's not some new phenomenon. This isn't the first time that it happened in 2020, 2021, whatever. It's not because of TikTok. It's not because of social media. It's a thing where you see something and you finally go, holy fucking shit. This is the first time I've ever seen myself represented in my life. I'm going to try and understand what this means and if it applies to me. And again, some people are wrong. But that doesn't mean that every single individual with the disorder is faking it. When we were in the psych ward in 2023, we were discussing how we have DID with some other patients there. And one of the other patients, who mind you didn't have DID, goes, what do you think about all the people that just go on TikTok and fake having the disorder? And I'm like, we are somebody who gets fake claimed on TikTok for not having the disorder, despite being diagnosed for several years and having it validated by multiple mental health professionals and struggling with it every single fucking day of our lives. And it was really fucking frustrating because this individual thought that that was their end to a conversation, was that we want to start bitching about people faking it online. I'm like, fake claiming systems online does more harm to me as a real system than them faking. Some individuals who think that they have DID and don't have DID might then accidentally spread misinformation. But so do fucking diagnosed systems. So do people with the actual disorder. So the misinformation isn't even just coming from the people who are faking it intentionally or otherwise. It just pisses me the fuck off that people think that my experiences aren't real because people are faking it online for attention.
This is kind of a difficult question to answer without getting into a lot of topics that upset me, so I'll try to keep this as neutral as I can manage. I haven't really dealt with the whole DID is a disorder for serial killers and dangerous people stigma at all. I didn't like the movie Split, but that stigma has never found its way to me in any way that wasn't a joke from a close friend. I sometimes get told that DID isn't real and I'm making it up to fit an internet trend. This one sucks a bit more. I've had former partners tell me that I was just looking for attention and any trauma I experienced was fake, that I was just a very bad kid and difficult to manage. Hearing that is really disheartening, and my difficulty in managing relationships, as well as the stigma, has encouraged me to either stop dating entirely or at least wait until after I've gotten my degree to date, once I'm at a more solid and independent period in my life. The biggest stigma I get, though, is excitement. When I tell people I have DID, they'll tell me that they see it all over TikTok and it must be really cool to live with so many fictional characters in my brain. I'm told that having DID has to be like having friends in my head that I can rely on and make do my homework, and I've had plenty of people close to me intentionally fake the disorder, only to come to me later and tell me that they were being disingenuous because it looked so cool online. It's difficult to be taken seriously in my disorder that revolves around my CPTSD because nuance dies on the internet, and so many people think DID is something to envy now.
Prompt number 6. Has the DID community negatively affected you, directly or indirectly, and if so, how? The DID community, especially online, has a lot of fucking drama. It's a bunch of traumatized people stuck into a small space who then get into arguments over things that aren't even really fucking arguments. And that is so grating to be around all the time. We were having a conversation with our friend the other day, and there's also this constant need for validation from people, to people like accept that what they're experiencing is real. And sure, I get that. It's a thing. You want to be seen and heard. But sometimes it just means that we get stuck going in loops over and over again about the same fucking conversation. I feel like there are people constantly being like, hey guys, intro checks are a real thing. And yes, everyone is entering the community at different points in time. But we know that intro checks are a real thing. We can move past this topic now. Another thing that was quite detrimental to us and annoyed us quite a bit was, this was also back in 2022-ish, give or take a couple of years. We'd be in Discord servers for DID systems, and there'd be like new alter help channels. And objectively, not really an issue. The issue was that every time an alter was using that channel because they'd split or they'd come out of dormancy or they'd fused or whatever and they were trying to work themselves out, the automatic response from the people helping would be to try and find their source. So they'd be like, what memories do you have? And blah, blah, blah. And I remember one time there was like a trauma holder who'd come out of dormancy for us, and we were like trying to use passive influence and internal communication, and it wasn't really working. And the most we could get was like, hey, we have friends on the server, you can ask them what's going on, and they'll point you to like where the information about our specific system is, but we couldn't like get that specifically across, and we just like, we managed to get them to navigate to those channels, but like we couldn't explain exactly what they needed to ask, and the people in those channels started asking like, hey, what do you remember? And this was a trauma holder, right? And so this put them into flashbacks because they were being asked what they remembered, and they were remembering horrific trauma memories. Alters who wouldn't necessarily be introjects thinking they were introjects because they were being told that new alters were introjects, and there was also this big push that any new alter who showed up was a new split and not someone returning from dormancy or someone just depersonalized, and there was this big push to like work yourself out as an individual alter, when half the time somebody using those channels was, at least from our system, just somebody who was dissociated and didn't know who they were at the time because they were dissociated, not because they were a new alter. Half the time is probably a bit of an exaggeration, but it was an experience that we definitely had. The amount of infighting and toxicity in the DID community is really fucking rampant. And yes, we have found really good systems. Yes, we have mutuals that we care a lot about. The people in our comment section tend to be really respectful and kind, and we do value that. But also, it's just so... And two things can be true at once, right? Like, it can be toxic, it can be annoying, there can be stigmas pushed around and pushing systems to misunderstand their experiences. And at the same time, it can be a source of community and learning and education and being witnessed and being seen, which can all be like really fundamental parts, like healing and all that shit. And so it just comes down to your discernment, and it's a fucking hard line to draw, and different people in our systems have different opinions on it. But yeah, the system community can be great, and it can also be really fucking painful.
I mentioned in my introduction portion of my video that I took in a lot of misinformation that made recovery difficult, and the DID community was where that misinformation came from, specifically Discord. I was told in early 2021 that wanting any fusion was killing my alters, that any recovery that worked for me needed to separate every part of me as much as possible. I got lost in a lot of malingering, trying to be the sort of person with DID that was desirable and worth being friends with. I was accidentally double and triple counting how many parts I had, so I had no idea until after I was diagnosed how my DID even functioned. Just as well, the drama in the system community gets egregious. I've met people on Discord intentionally faking DID who decided to start issues with one another. I've met people who faked alters of me personally and have later discovered that those parts or those disorders did not exist in that person. I've met people in servers who make it their mission to only date people for their introjects and to date as many alters as possible. There's a big argument to be made that it's an internet user's guide to discern truth from misinformation, but a lot of the DID community appeals to teenagers and their need to find acceptance. I got so much wrong about my DID by immersing myself in the community.
Prompt number 7, are there negative aspects to DID that you don't see people talk about? Because we have a lot of system friends who we talk about the really shitty stuff with all the time. There's not really stuff in our lives that we don't see talked about ever, but it's normally stuff spoken about in private. Or really glossed over, because let's be honest, who wants to talk about the shitty stuff in their life online all the time? One negative experience we had is around like sex and relationships and all that stuff, and it's when we had a denial holder fronting who didn't think we had DID, and they went and just hooked up with somebody. One of the other things that really fucking sucks about DID is when you're stuck in the body, you're trying to deal with all this shit, and there are just people in your head in active distress and crisis, and because whatever situation you're in, you can't show that. You just gotta hide that. You gotta pretend that that's not happening, and then people think that you're always this like happy, chipper individual, but nah, that shit's a fucking facade. And the final thing is just how much dissociation sucks. Like, sure, we spend most of the time dissociated. Sure, it's our normal. But then when you really think about it, when you think about the fact that we lose so much time, that we never feel real, that we don't know who we are, that we can't remember large chunks of time, that alters in our system still think that there's somewhere where we're not, that it just, we become so foggy, we can't speak or move. There's a big emphasis about alters online, because that's one of the key defining features of being a system. It's one of the parts that's kind of easiest to talk about in a lot of ways, because yeah, it fucking sucks, But because you can kind of talk to those parts, because you can negotiate through it, because it's an active part of your brain you can communicate with once you get to that point in your system journey, it's easier to talk about online because you're like, here's the progress that we've made since this person used to do all these terrible things and now they've progressed. Meanwhile, the other, just the symptoms that your brain has that you can't have a conversation with because they're symptoms, they're experiences, they're not dissociated alternative identity states. They're just fucking shit things that you can't talk to and negotiate with. They're just there all the time, whether you want them to or not. And it just fucking sucks. And it sucks so much. And it's so much harder to talk about because it's stuff that we're dealing with all the fucking time. And I don't want to be seen as some vulnerable little person who's constantly re-experiencing trauma in their brain to some capacity, because it fucking sucks to be seen as vulnerable and it sucks to be seen as weak. And it's also the fucking reality that I can't deal with my past to the point that my brain is fragmented. So we go to therapy about it.
I'm going to answer this backwards, I think. I only ever see one thing focused on in the DID community, and that's alters. The way DID is discussed online, I think, leads a lot of people to mistakenly believe that DID really is just an alter disorder. The PTSD element of the disorder, the amnesia, even if it is just grey-eyed amnesia, the flashbacks, the complex dissociation that debilitates people. I wish these were discussed more. Alters are not my biggest symptom. They're just a byproduct of the CPTSD and the dissociation. I wish people talked about the trauma responses that frame DID as a whole. You can't have a scab without a wound, and CPTSD and flashbacks are by far one of my most distressing symptoms that I don't see discussed. Chronic dissociation also isn't discussed as much as I'd expect, but it's also kind of difficult to explain that in a way people understand, so I kind of get why that isn't talked about as much.
I'm really grateful for Lennox because this video idea was directly inspired by them. There was a conversation and we went, hang on, this is a good video idea. And we worked on it together and it has been insightful to make. Not fun, not enjoyable. This is a shit fucking topic. You've got 2 shitty videos in a row, flashbacks and hating DID. This video has been a really negative one. And some people hate every single aspect of their DID. We don't. There are parts of it that we genuinely enjoy. There are things that we find very neutral. We've been quite negative and pessimistic in this video because it's a space for us to talk about those negative and pessimistic things. But if you see us talking about DID in a positive or neutral light, that doesn't mean that that's not true. And it's not true for the alters who experience that. There's so many complicated feelings. It's a complex disorder. It affects every single waking moment of our life. And sometimes I just want to bitch about that. So thank you all so much for watching. If you want to answer these specific prompts, they're in the description. You can do so in the comments. Or if you just want to talk about the negative experiences you've had with DID in the comments, feel free for it as well. Like, we're not a therapist, so we can't like give you nice little neat responses with a bow on top to help you feel better. But in this video, not so much other video comments, but in this video, feel free to vent about the downsides of DID because it fucking sucks, and we as systems should have the space to be able to voice that, and we don't deserve to have to hide that all the time to be palatable for other people. Thank you all so much for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye.